Yo, what's up? Welcome into the Opening Line Friday edition. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Main man, Benny Ricciardi, Elite Fantasy Sports Network. The boys over at the Elite Fantasy Sports Network got it going on right now, especially on the betting and the DFS, so you might want to hop in and get that done. Also, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you know when the video is posted. Got a little bit of stuff to get into today, Benny. I want to start with the night in the NBA, but how was your evening last night, brother?
It was kind of long, to be honest with you. There were only 3 NBA games, so I watched a little bit of that Milwaukee 76ers game and basically turned into a one-on-one between Giannis and Joel Embiid, and that was a hell of a basketball game. So that's going to be a hell of a series if those two wind up meeting in the in the Eastern Conference Finals. But more importantly, I had basically a small night from NBA with only 3 games. So I sat on Fangraphs most of the evening going over, swinging strike rates and WOBAs and pitch data and everything else that was going on there. Kind of get ready because we only got 1 week left of NBA regular season, and then you're going to see a lot more baseball talk out of me from there going forward. So just kind of wanted to get up on the numbers and make sure I was on top of it because we're watching a lot of basketball lately.
There you go, Benny, getting ready. Being a true pro, he is getting ready, looking at swinging strike rates and WOBA. I, on the other hand, will not be looking at any of that shit. That's what Benny is here for. I'm here to get Benny to that spot to tell us about that swing and strike rate, and then I'll go and I'll run the optimizer or I'll play the picks. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll get ramped up. I'll be getting started. Probably right after the Final Four next week. Also, I'll be getting started on getting ready for the NFL draft and start to put some best ball strategies together. As I see myself doing much more best ball this year, Benny, coming up. Because, man, listen, when you're in the industry, people want you to play in leagues. You got leagues that you want to be in. Obviously, I don't do this for free. I do it to put some bread on it because I've won like that before. So I got to start getting ready for that stuff, you know what I'm saying? And it takes time. And, right after the NFL – Benny, after the NFL draft, really fantasy football starts. Because you'll really start to see the best balls ramp up because, for the most part, rosters are set.
Yeah, I mean, basically, from pretty much from now until football season starts, it's kind of into football season because a lot of the drafts for baseball are already happening. They already happened. You're already into your seasons at this point. The only stuff we really still have going on is going to be, DFS baseball, NBA playoff basketball, which isn't all that great because at most you got, the first round's okay. You get some 4-game slates in the first round or so, but after the first round, it winds up being 2-game slates, and it winds up being the slate starts on Monday and the second game's on Tuesday kind of deal. So, I mean, really, when you start talking about gambling and fantasy dollars and where they're going, a lot of that is directed towards football, which is why you see, most of the major radio stations and providers by June and July are already starting to talk about NFL because that's what people want to read and that's what people are getting geared up for.
No doubt, I agree with you 100% on that one. So you got that coming up. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, best ball for me has been the way to go. Playing in all these leagues is obviously better, but you don't have to set 1 million lineups and run fab for 1 million teams. So that makes it pretty much easier to do, and you can still reap some rewards at the end. So it'll be that season. Also, I'll be starting to get ready for the upcoming college football season so we can be sharp for that when we get to wagering on that. Benny, you watch much college football?
Yeah, I mean, you got to have something to do on Saturday, right? Normally it's on. Yeah, I mean, I'm not as deep into it as I am in the NFL, basically just because of the gambling side and the fantasy side and all that. Although you do have college football DFS coming back again this year now.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, I mean, because the whole point of it was, with the gambling thing and the UIGEA, there was a little bit of a gray area about whether or not you were even allowed to have college sports, which is why they got rid of college basketball and college football. But with all that now out of the way and college basketball kind of being, a DFS sport again, because we had college basketball for the Final Four again for DFS. So I'm assuming college football DFS is going to be coming back too. I mean, that's not a 100% set in stone, but it just makes sense to me that they would.
It would be. I remember the last year college football was available to be played here in this area. I used to make a killing on college football, and I remember every Saturday I would roll out then Mississippi State quarterback Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
I never knew that Dak Prescott would end up, All Lives Matter Prescott would end up being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But now he's there, and you know what? Like I said, I've had issues with Dak in the past, but I'm proud that he is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys sometimes.
You know what I like the most about college football DFS is, NFL games, if you get like a 35-28 game, that's like pretty high scoring. College football, you're getting some of these games in the 50s and 60s. So fantasy-wise, when you're playing DFS college football, like the scores just get ridiculous. You have quarterbacks putting up like 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, and 6 total touchdowns, 75 fantasy points from your one quarterback, and like a wide receiver with 8 catches for 197 yards and 3 TDs. So you can get the scoreboard watching for DFS college football is pretty fun.
Jalen Hurts should be one of the top guys picked in the weekly leagues. Now that he's the quarterback, should be the quarterback at Oklahoma, out there with the Sooners and that high-flying offense. But listen, we got plenty of time to talk about that, but that's what we got going on. But you mentioned it last night with Giannis and Joel Embiid. These cats that could be – Giannis will win the MVP this year. I think Joel Embiid has the MVP in him at some point also, Benny. Good game last night. The Bucks go in there and get the win. The line bounced around all day. One of the disadvantages of not living in New Jersey is not catching these lines at the right time. Yesterday morning, it was 1.5. About yesterday afternoon, the Bucks were up to 5. So I'm like, okay, well, Embiid must be sitting or Butler must be sitting. Mm-hmm. Comes out later, Jimmy Butler is sitting. The number drops back to 4.5. I really didn't like it the best at 4.5. And then the juice on the money line was at minus 205. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to tease this with the CBI game, with the NIT final. Mm-hmm. So I had the Bucks laying 0.5 point.
Right.
I had Lipscomb catching 5.5 points. Lipscomb lost by 20. You know what I'm saying? So that blew that one up right there. But my fallback was the Bucks to win the game and over 227 points. So that one did hit, kind of was able to let me break even for the night, Benny. But watching the basketball game, listen, I saw a tweet. The Bucks check all the boxes of an elite basketball team. They're well on both ends of the floor. They have an MVP candidate. They have 60 wins. They have a dominant home court. Only thing I don't know, and you've mentioned this before, you feel comfortable with it, and I know that, the head coaching situation. Coaching becomes very big in the playoffs. Yes. Are the Bucks well enough coached to make this deep run?
Yeah, well, this is the reason why I was so high on him at the beginning of this year in general, is I think Budenholzer is a very good coach. Listen, this is Greg Popovich, right? Like, this guy was a Greg Popovich disciple. He went over to Atlanta. Remember when Atlanta started making that run and they had Teague and, they
actually won the East one year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was the coach at that point in time. So you take a ragtag team like that nobody expected to be that good, and you win with them. You take a team like the Bucks, who have been slightly above mediocre for the last couple of years, and you put a good coach with them, and now they're number 1 in the East. And, like you said, I think they're 1 win away from having a 60-win season. This guy can coach. He knows what he's doing. He is good at managing his players and keeping them fresh. He's good at teaching defense and kind of stressing that with the players on his team. I mean, I don't think – if you ask me what their weakness is, I would say their weakness is more the fact that they don't have a lot of experience. They don't have a lot of guys that have been there in these big situations before. I mean, yes, Giannis is their best player. Giannis is 24 years old. It's not like Giannis – which is crazy. Yeah, I agree. But it's not like Giannis has been around and been in these big games and these big matchups. So to me, their biggest knock is that they don't really have the playoff experience that, some of the teams out west do, because really nobody in the East kind of has it. Like, I guess the Celtics a little bit.
Celtics and the Raptors.
Yeah, the Raptors a little bit. You can make that argument. But, really, I mean, you look at, like, the 76ers, you look at Milwaukee. Like, these are young teams that haven't really been there before. I don't think Budenholzer – if anything, I would actually say Budenholzer is probably one of the top 3 coaches that's going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. Along with Brad Stevens, even though he hasn't had a great year. Really, I would put those 2 at the top of the list. To me, they're the 2 best coaches in the East.
Would you, when it comes to laying futures for the NBA to win the championship, would you put down $500 on the Warriors at, I think, minus 210 to win 750?
Minus 210 to get back 750, so to win 250.
Yeah, to win $250. Would you lay 500 to win
No.
2? Yeah,
No.
that's the thing.
Because you know what the thing is? You got to think about it this way, Corey, right? It's like is the odds really going to be that much different to just bet on them in like the Western Conference Final or in the finals? Like for me, if I'm taking a future bet right now, I'm taking a bet on like was like Boston like minus like plus 500
plus 500 to win the Eastern Conference. That's a good bet.
Yeah, like that's something you do, and here's why you do it too. Is like if you take Boston plus 500 to win the East right now, right? They make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now you have a hedgeable opportunity, right? So like if you put, I don't know, let's say you put $200 on it, so you got 200 to win 1,000 on Boston. Boston makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals, even if they're not favored, which they probably won't be. I don't know, maybe they play Toronto or the 76ers or something. You know, you could probably get that team at like a minus 150 or something. So even if you wanted to bet $300 or $400 on Toronto or on Philly when you get to that Eastern Conference Final, if you think Boston can make it there, you can like guarantee that you don't lose money and still give yourself upside with a Boston bet. If you're going to take the Golden State Warriors at minus 210 in round one, really the only thing you can do is hold that ticket until the championship, right? Because you're not going to be able to hedge off of anything on it. It's not enough money for you to really even have a chance to hedge off in a different way. So for me, if you're going to be able to get them at minus 2, minus 3, like I don't think you're going to get them at much worse than that to win the championship, even if they make it to the championship. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. I think the way to go, like I said, you try to find that good future plus money. As far as the game last night, like I said, two guys, I think Embiid's MVP candidate. Freak's obviously going to win the MVP this year. You know, he has a younger brother coming up. Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah. He was on the Knicks for a while, too. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
He was with the Knicks organization. I think he's back in Milwaukee now. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember, but he does have a younger brother who's like 18, 19 years old.
So the game last night, no Jimmy Butler, who is the Sixers closer. Embiid has a fantastic game. So does Simmons, Mike Scott. On the other side, obviously, Giannis was the man. Chris Middleton did his thing. Bledsoe ejected early in the game. Him and Embiid get tangled up. You know, they had to be ejected. That dude, Mike Scott, I'm trying to think what college Mike Scott went to. God, I can't remember right now. About it last night. He's a straight goon. That's his role. His role is to be a goon. He was in the mix on everything last night.
Right.
Obviously, without no Jimmy Butler, but he played that type of game. I think he had 21 points last night. So he made up for Butler's presence. I thought the 76er crowd was good. Bryce came out and rang the bell earlier. These two teams would play an interesting playoff series. If they was to meet up, I still would give the Bucks the edge. But Benny, we went to the homies was watching the game last night. So, you know, we're going back and forth between the NIT final, which I was the only one interested in, and the Bucks and the 76ers. So obviously when Lipscomb is getting the pants beat off them and missing every shot, I'm like, don't go back to the NIT final. We can keep it. So after that little scuffle breaks out, whatever, you know, things, cooler heads prevail. I go to the bathroom. I come back. My boys are in the room dying laughing. And they're like, yo, son, we got to rewind this because you didn't see this, but Stephen A. just ran on the court to help break up the fight. And I'm like, no, he didn't. He did not. They rewind it, and in slow motion, it appears, Benny, that Stephen A. appears on the court and is breaking the players up. So now we're dying laughing like, yo, why did Stephen A. run on the court? Well, it comes out this morning, Benny, that was not Stephen A. It actually was a member from the NBA security team, but him and Stephen A. had a striking resemblance. Me and my homies laughed about it all night, Benny, but thankfully that was not your man, $10 million man, Stephen A. Smith.
I was gonna say, man, yo, you just got the big bag right now. I mean, ESPN just dropped all that money on you at this point. Like, hire somebody to go do that stuff. Be like, yo, go handle my light work. I mean, $10 million. Yeah, you shouldn't be throwing hands with $10 million. You got to keep yourself good to make that money keep coming in.
So that was not Stephen A. on the court last night, and I saw some stuff on social media this morning where people were like, "Yo, that's Stephen A." But it was not Stephen A. on the court. So shout out to my man Stephen A. Speaking of which, I tell you what though, and it's just us talking. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't really tell this story like on air on Sirius XM or something like that because you know, people, you know, I don't want for people stuff business out there, but I could believe that it was Stephen A. because Stephen A. has a good relationship with a lot of these players in the NBA, right? Mm-hmm. So I heard a story, true story. I can confirm it from people that was there and people that you know the parties involved. It may have been maybe 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. the Clippers were playing the Memphis Grizzlies. This is when the Grizzlies was good. This is like the Grindhouse Grizzlies. You know what I mean?
Right, yep.
Tony Allen, Z-Bo, the whole deal. So down in the paint was Zach Randolph and Blake Griffin, which is, you know,
some big boys down there banging. All right,
it's some big bodies down there, and you know Zach Randolph is not one for playing around. Zach Randolph is a dude that you don't play with. You know what I'm saying? Zach Randolph is the type of cat where, you know, Zach Randolph like to play basketball and he do Zach Randolph things. Well, Blake Griffin and Zach Randolph down there in the paint banging, and Blake Griffin is chirping, running his mouth. Said a couple things to Z-Bo that, you know, Zach Randolph didn't like. Talked about his wife, talked about his kids, talked about his mother, this, that, and the third. The type of stuff that you hear, trash talking.
Right.
So the way the story goes is Zach Randolph told Blake Griffin, I don't play that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I come out here, I play ball, that stupid trash talking, I'm not the one for that. Blake Griffin continues, right? So after the game, Zach Randolph makes his way over to the Clipper locker room.
Okay.
And he was like, yo, let me in that joint. And they was like, excuse me? He was like, let me in that joint or send Blake Griffin outside. So Chauncey Billups comes back and tells Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin is like, I'm not going out there. Chauncey is like, yo, son, he say he wants you to come outside. You was talking all that trash. Chauncey Billups and Zach Randolph are affiliated in some ways outside the court. Let's just say it like that.
Okay.
So Chauncey Billups tells Blake, yo, son, you know, he wants you outside. Blake Griffin never goes outside. Blake Griffin changes his clothes. He waits, the last guy to leave the locker room. He rolls out. Blake Griffin gets back to the hotel room, and Chauncey Billups comes in Blake Griffin's room and was like, yo, look outside your window. It's Zach Randolph at the hotel, in the parking lot in Memphis, at the hotel, like, bring your ass outside. So Chauncey Billups was like, yo, I'm not going out that joint. I'm not going out there. I mean, well, Chauncey Billups tells him, Blake Griffin, you got to go outside. Blake Griffin is like, I'm not going out there. By this time, other teammates are starting to get involved. So now they're egging it up. They're like, yo, Blake, you got to go outside and fight this dude. You know what I'm saying? He's in the parking lot, shirtless. We don't want this to be a story, so you got to go outside and fight him. Blake is like, I'm not going outside to fight that dude. So Chauncey Billups literally and a couple of his teammates, by this time they're trolling him now. They grab Blake Griffin. They're trying to pull Blake Griffin out the room. Griffin is legit holding on to the door like, I'm not going out there. I'm not going out there. Finally, Zach Randolph outside, in the parking lot, acting crazy. So Chauncey's like, yo, son, I can't get him to come out here. Blake Griffin calls Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, in turn, gets in touch with Zach Randolph and tells Zach Randolph, let it die, go ahead and go home. So Stephen A. is a peacemaker in the NBA. And that story is wild, and that's a true story, Benny.
That is wild, man. That is crazy. Well, you know what? That's why he gets the bag for $8 to $10 million.
Exactly. Not only that, and that's why Zach Randolph is a dude that you do not mess with. Something about Zach Randolph would say to me, if I'm down there banging with Zach Randolph, something would tell me, you know what? Don't talk trash to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big boy, and he uses his body and did it when he was on the floor. I'm just thinking about, you know, Zach Randolph standing in a parking lot with no shirt on, yelling at Blake Griffin through a window. Like, if I was in that hotel, I would be, like, just sitting there with my popcorn, like, yo, I want to see how this ends.
Yo, I got to tape this, you know what I'm saying? Other than that, light night in the NBA last night. Yo, Benny, you hear about this thing with Steph Curry? His vision was blurry.
Yes, I read that in the paper. So, I mean, basically you're taking the best shooter in the NBA, and now you're going to give him perfect vision when he was already shooting, 40% from behind the arc. So, I don't know. Does this make him better? I mean, he can actually see the basket now. Before he was just kind of chucking it up.
Yo, he's like, he feels more confident. And I'm like, son, you're the greatest shooter in NBA history. You getting contact lenses is like putting a scope on a gun.
Yeah, it really isn't going to be fair right now. So we'll see. I mean, you know what? There was talk that he wasn't playing all that well this year. And, whether it was because they had, other scorers now where didn't have to do as much, or he was in and out of being injured. And, they were kind of limiting him a little bit when he came back from injury to make him fresh for now. So we'll see. I mean, if he comes out and has like an all-time great kind of playoff, the guy, like, listen, he's got a couple MVPs. He's going to retire as probably the most prolific three-point shooter in NBA history. I mean, this is a guy who some people
he's about to break that. He'll be breaking that record soon.
That's what I'm saying. Is people said when he came in the league that this was a guy that was too small and couldn't handle well enough, and he wasn't going to have a good NBA career. I think he proved quite a few people wrong at this point, and he's not done yet.
One pick away from being a New York Knick was Steph Curry. The Knicks loved him too. They were one pick away, and obviously he was scooped up right in front of the New York Knicks. Many people think this is the last year of the Golden State run. If this is the last year they're running and KD leaves, got some reports came out that says Kevin Durant, they said it's all but finalized. Kevin Durant's going to be a New York Knick next year. My thinking is they probably move Draymond Green. They don't want Draymond Green on the team in the contract year. Then they move Draymond Green, keep Boogie, and try to re-up after that. I people think this is the last year of the Warriors' prolific championship run. If Curry doesn't win a Finals MVP, does that taint his legacy when it's all said and done?
I don't really think so because he's going to walk away with a couple rings. I think he already has a regular season MVP from a couple years ago.
Unanimous. The only person to ever win a unanimous MVP.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to walk away with depending on how long he plays, probably double-digit All-Star game appearances and a bunch of times on first team and second team All-NBA. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think it's going to taint them for not having one. But, obviously, we'll put it this way. Like, Charles Barkley is a great player, right? Charles Barkley won a championship, doesn't have a finals MVP. I mean, he's still going to be known as one of the all-time greats, and he should be because, like I said, Steph Curry's first couple years in the league here so far, he's had a better run than almost any other point guard that's been in the league. And some of the things he's doing, especially with the shooting and all that, I mean, he changed the game. Like, he revolutionized the way the game is played, Now, as for the Warriors' run, though, like, here's the deal. Like, right now, the Warriors are far and away the favorites to win, right? Like, nobody else is even really close to them. Houston you can make a case for, maybe Milwaukee in the East. But for the most part, they're, like, head and shoulders above everybody. Even when they didn't have Kevin Durant, this was still a championship team.
No doubt.
So when people are like, it's going to end their run, I don't think it's going to end their run. I think it's going to put them back into contention with a couple other teams in the league. Yeah. They're still going to be one of the 5 best teams in the league. They're still going to be a team that's going to be a short price to win the championship, even without Kevin Durant. But they're not going to be the head and shoulders, favorite like they are this year with the talent level that they have. But it's not like they're going to suck and be a –
No. The Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, they're not going to suck. They're going to continue to get it done. But like you said, it's not going to be head and shoulders. It's going to be like it was when they lost to the Cavaliers a couple years ago. They're going to be a team that's, they're going to be beatable again instead of the invincible team that everybody looks at them as now. Yeah, the team that loses one game throughout the playoff stretch. They're not going to be that group no more. Coming up tonight in the league, I know you're getting ready to write about it for Elite Fantasy, get the DFS slate together. Just want to touch on 2 games right quick. You got the Boston Celtics traveling to Indiana on what should be a hotly contested game. Boston opens up as a 1.5-point road favorite. The number's sitting at 215. My money's going to be on the Indiana Pacers in this game.
See, I'm going with Boston here, and I'll tell you why. Because I do think Boston is the better team with Indiana not having Oladipo.
No doubt.
We're also not going to have Darren Collison most likely tonight because he's doubtful as well. So the way I'm looking at it, these 2 teams are basically tied. I got to double check. It might be a half game or something like that.
They are tied. They have the same exact record, 47 and 32.
And it's for the 4 and 5 spot. So for the 4 and 5 spot, you're basically talking about like
home court.
The winner of this game is going to get the home court, right? So I feel like if anything, it's going to be all hands on deck, and the Celtics are going to like really be up to play this game. Now, Indiana's a very good team, so I don't think
they're very good at home.
Yes, very good at home. I don't think it's going to be an easy victory for the Celtics, but I do think Boston gets it done here.
All right, so at the Celtics and the Indiana Pacers, guess what's going to be interesting? Also tonight, you have the Portland Trailblazers traveling to Denver. Denver opens up this one as a 6.5-point. Well, they opened up at a 5.5-point favorite. They've been bet up to a 6.5-point favorite going up against the Portland Trailblazers. This number is sitting at 216 right now. Benny, I think Portland has been undervalued since the Nurkic injury.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, since the CJ McCollum industry, if you even want injury, if you even want to go back a little further than that, I mean, right now they're the number 4 seed, right? And they could still move up. I mean, if they beat Denver, I think has like 52 wins. Portland has 50, and then Houston's in the middle at 51. So theoretically, if Portland wins today, they're at 51. They probably got about 2 or 3. Most teams have about 3 games left, so they probably have about 2 games left after that. If they beat Denver today, they could end up as the 2 seed in the West. Now, I don't think they could drop because I think that Utah's behind them with –
Utah can't catch them.
Yeah,
Utah's the first 4 are jockeying and the bottom 3 are jockeying.
Well, I mean, basically, Golden State needs 1 win, right? If Golden State gets 1 win right now, Golden State is the 1 seed. But Denver had 52 wins, Houston had 51, and Portland had 50. If Portland beats Denver tonight, then basically you're talking about 3 teams that are within 1 game of each other for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seed. And, really in the West, I don't think, like, the bottom 4 seeds are Utah, the Clippers, Oklahoma City, and San Antonio.
Yep.
Like, none of those are really easy games or easy matchups. But really, I think the matchup I'd want, I think whoever finishes 3rd, I would want the Clippers in the first round of those 4 teams.
Clippers well coached. I don't know if the talent level is there.
And that's why.
A good second half of the season. But I think that the team on the top half, like you said, on the front of that bracket, that 3 seed more than likely be able to hammer the clip joint. And the Nuggets very well could struggle. And the Warriors, listen, Oklahoma City is coming for them. They don't care about seeds. They're going to be coming for them. So I find that to be interesting how that's going down right there. So, Benny, I have that article up. If you want to play some DFS over at EliteFantasy.com, make sure you check that out. Got the Final Four coming up. I want to hop into some Final Four talk right quick. But I want to touch on a story from earlier in the week, Benny. Remember I told you about the kid, Lil Nas X, with that song, Old Town Road, that country trap that they took, that Billboard became the number 1 country song. Then Billboard said, hey, wait a minute. It's not a country song, and took it off. Well, he remixed it, and he put Billy Ray Cyrus on it. But it's a country song now.
Yeah, now it's real country. Yeah. You think they'll let him get back on the charts, though, or are they still going to keep it off?
I think they're going to let him get back on the charts. Smart move by him. So if you're on Twitter and you see this thing, if you see the trend called Old Town Road, that is actually the remix with Billy Ray Cyrus, and I'm telling you, your kids are gonna love the jam. It's like a kids type song. It's a novelty type song. So check it out. Final Four coming up this weekend. The whole crew over at Guru Elite that's gonna be betting on these games. You can get their pick right in there. Me and Benny will give you our pick before we close it down. Benny, we've seen the New York Giants try to figure out things this offseason. Mm-hmm. Eli Manning, untouchable. We've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to figure out things this offseason. Ben Roethlisberger, untouchable. Now we get a report yesterday, the Green Bay Packers. They had to figure things out for the past few seasons. And once again, at the center of this is a multi-million-dollar quarterback who they can't seem to break up with. Now, Rodgers is more skilled at this point in his career than Eli, and I don't think he is unlike as Ben Roethlisberger is. Mm-hmm. But Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy, and just about everybody in Green Bay has an opinion on number 12.
I mean, listen, to me, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, hands down. Like, if you ask me, he's a top 3 to 4 quarterback in the NFL right now, so I have no problem with him. My biggest problem, and you know this, Corey, because I'm a big believer in this, it is tough to build a winning franchise around the $25, $30 million, $40 million quarterback because in NFL, you can't win with one player. The only team that's been able to consistently do something like that is the Patriots, and most people don't even realize up until like 2 or 3 years ago, Tom Brady always had reasonable contracts. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was never, I want $30 million, I want to be the highest paid guy. Like, he made his money, don't get me wrong, but he was never the guy that wanted all the money, you know? Like,
well, you got to understand, Benny, how many quarterbacks in the NFL have a wife that makes more money than them?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And that's what I'm saying is that's why he was able to do it. And that's perfectly fine. That's great. That's not, that's not a knock on him at all. But you know the way the salary cap is. Like, when you have Aaron Rodgers there, you can't go pay for a good running back out there. You have to kind of go with, a committee like what they've been doing for years because you don't have the money to pay that position. You're paying some of your wide receivers already, so that's your next big expenditure. So you don't have the money to go get a big offensive line. You don't have the money to go get big defensive free agents to fill in the holes that you need. And that's the problem that a lot of these teams are finding right now. The teams that are winning and building the right way in the NFL are doing it with a young rookie quarterback on a rookie deal. That's a reasonable deal where the kid is probably better than the amount of money you're giving him at this point in time.
No doubt.
And that allows you money to go get the Odell Beckhams and to go get the defensive players. And
Max and stuff like that. When they change teams, Le'Veon Bell, they don't change teams to go play with the Packers. They change teams to go play with the Jets and Sam Darnold because that's the team that have the money. So that's right, 100% correct. You hop on that. I think this Packers situation has been a problem for a while. We've been hearing rumors for a long time now about Aaron Rodgers not being a well-liked guy and stuff like that. Mike McCarthy and him not able to get along. It's just crazy that these dominant premier NFL franchises, the Giants, the Steelers, and the Packers, all having issues centered around quarterbacks, whether it's poor play with Eli Manning or just bad vibes from Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger. It'll be interesting to see how these things play out over the course of the next couple of months as we get ready for the season because I really, truly do not think the Packers are contenders anymore.
Now, here's a question for you because I've always been wondering this, right? Like 10 years ago, you spent up and you paid for a running back. You pay, or actually this is like 15, 20 years ago now. You had your Barry Sanders, you had your Thurman Thomas, you had your Emmitt Smith. Like those were the guys who used to get the big money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it kind of moved as it became more of a passing league. It kind of moved to the quarterbacks being the guys getting the big money. But now we're starting to get the pendulum starting to swing back the other way because we're starting to get teams not being able to build or win with these big money quarterbacks. Do you think that what's happening to running backs right now where teams are like, oh, we could just go get somebody late and we don't have to pay somebody like Le'Veon Bell the kind of money that, he's going to want? Do you think that happens with quarterbacks eventually?
That would almost be like fantasy football. It would be like fantasy football, a devaluing of the position. When you look, just look at the Final Four this year. You had the Chiefs, quarterback on a rookie contract.
Yep.
You had the Rams, quarterback on a rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears, quarterback on a rookie contract. So these teams, everybody, the Cowboys, quarterback on a rookie contract. The Eagles, quarterback on a rookie contract. So you're right. That's the way to do it. Dallas just didn't ever build around it. I think basically the problem is fans and owners love quarterbacks too much. And that's what it is. Fans and owners love quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are very popular with fans. They're very popular with owners. Fans will do anything for their quarterback. You could be a whack quarterback, and your fans be like, yo, we got his back. That's my quarterback. The owner is always going to give the face of the franchise quarterback. Look at Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is like, the ownership in Tampa is like, all right, see ya, Cutter, Jameis. Who you want? You know what I'm saying? And this dude is grabbing pussies and Ubers.
Yeah. Well, not for nothing, but at the beginning of the season, Ryan Fitzpatrick played as well, if not better, than he did. Exactly. So it's not like you could, and this is what I'm saying is Ryan Fitzpatrick you can get for $1.5 million. Jameis Winston, I think either this year or next year his deal is up where he's a free agent, needs to be re-upped.
Short extensions because he keep doing stupid stuff. He should have been up for his big deal already, but they give him a little bit because they're like, okay, let's see if you're a franchise guy. Really, this is it for him.
Yeah, I really think it's put up or shut up time for him because honestly, and I don't think these guys understand that either. If you can't make it work right here, your next deal, your next contract is probably as a backup quarterback somewhere making a couple million instead of, setting your family up for the rest of your life money. So if I were you, I'd stop stealing chicken legs and grabbing pussies and Ubers and make sure you get yourself in the film room and make sure you have a good season here.
Yeah, he definitely needs to do that, Benny, because Jameis Winston's a parent now. You know what I'm saying? So he's got to be able to do a better job than that for my main man, Jameis Winston. So I think that the Packers, I think the Bears are the class of that division. I think the Lions could improve a little bit depending on what goes on there. I really like that young running back, Kerryon Johnson, a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the Packers are going in the wrong direction, and I think you bring in another head coach and LaFleur, and Rodgers is going to eat him up. Rodgers is going to eat him up.
Even Minnesota, who you didn't mention, is not a bad team either. So that's
with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is speaking to Michigan State before the Final Four. They couldn't get nobody else.
He got the bag. Like he's making his money. That's what it's about. He's making his money right now. They got some, but you know what I'm saying. Like there's another team like there's no easy wins in that division. It's not like the Packers
No,
are
that's true.
any of those teams. I mean, Minnesota can put up some points with those wide receivers, and hopefully they get healthy. They're always hurt. I feel like the Vikings are always hurt. That's the problem with them. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking for the Green Bay Packers to all of a sudden become the class of the NFC North at any time soon. I mean, to me, they still don't have all the pieces because they're paying so much money to Rodgers.
There you go, right there. So there you go. If you want to get ready for your 2019 fantasy football season, fantasyguru.com. My man Russell Clays over there getting draft prospects broken down right now. I'm about to hop over there, like I said, also after the Final Four and start getting ready for the NFL draft, which is right around the corner. And then fantasy football drafts will be hopping up. Season-long fantasy football covered over at fantasyguru.com, a name you've been recognizing for years. Let's talk some Final Four before we get up out of here, Benny. Auburn and UVA, University of Virginia and Auburn, they are the first game to tip off on Saturday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. 130.5. Well, 131 is the total. Virginia is laying 5.5. I was on Virginia all week until yesterday. I am rolling with the Auburn Tigers.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I mean,
I worry about Virginia going through stretches where they don't score, and Auburn don't have stretches like that.
Yes, so Auburn is going to put up points. I got to be honest, it's not crazy. I do think that Auburn can score, and if Virginia's not hitting shots, that's going to be a problem. But I'm still going with Virginia. I mean, you take Okeke out of there, everyone's like, oh, well, they beat Kentucky without him. But we never thought Kentucky was that good to begin with. So I don't really give them as much credit for that win as a lot of other people do there. I'm on UVA. If Auburn beats them, I'll tip my hat to Charles Barkley and the Auburn Tigers. But to me, I still think UVA is going to take this game pretty easily and make it to the finals.
Yeah, this is the banner that's going to be going down to Auburn University Final Four banner that will most likely be removed in a few years from now when the NCAA does their investigation into Bruce Pearl.
Very likely true.
Put the banner up, take the banner down. You know what I'm saying? Second game, Benny, is Texas Tech, the nightcap, Texas Tech and Michigan State. 2-3 versus the 3 seed. 132.5 is the number. I am going to lay the 2.5 with Michigan State. Michigan State is who I'm rolling with right now. Cassius Winston and that crew. About a month and a half ago, they went into Chrysler Arena and they beat down Michigan without Cassius. And I was like, you know what? This might be the best team in the country. And that 6 weeks later, I'm saying to myself, Michigan State's the best team left in this thing. I'm going with Michigan State to win the whole thing.
Hey, Tom Izzo in the tournament is something that I've always been a big fan of. I'm a big fan of Cassius Winston. Gave him the first big piece of chicken on the first show that we ever did after he basically single-handedly beat Michigan in the second half of that game. I'm fine with this team. I'm rolling with Sparty. I actually have Sparty to win the whole thing right now. So Michigan State all the way for me. And if they do win the whole thing, I actually win a little bit of money in that big pool too. So
there you go right there. So I'm also going to be heading out to Jersey probably tomorrow or maybe today, depending on how busy I am. And I'm going to put something on Michigan State to win the whole thing. Also, I'm going with State. Benny, you want to give out your big piece of chicken before I get out of mine and we get up out of here for the weekend?
Yeah, I'm gonna go over to baseball since I was in baseball mode most of yesterday. My boy Gleyber Torres.
Gleyber Day.
Yeah, baby. 2 home runs yesterday. Had a double. Had another single later on in the game. Finished with 11 total bases, 4 or 5 RBIs. Pretty much carried the New York Yankees. I would not doubt that we see him hitting up towards the top of the order, especially with all the injuries that the Yankees have right now. I think it's time. Let the kid move up there. You don't have to protect him anymore. And, when he has days like that, he kind of shows you what kind of talent he has. So,
what's interesting? I saw on Twitter yesterday, I had the game on down there in Camden Yards. I saw on Twitter yesterday, though, a lot of Yankee fans were freaking out while that game was going on. I think they're ready. Like, I know we're still in early April, but they're ready for this Bronx Bomber thing to get rolling. And I think Gleyber woke a lot of people off the edge yesterday. Yeah,
I mean, he had a big game when they needed it with the injuries going on and some of the pitching not looking all that great. He definitely stepped up yesterday and kind of put a charge into Yankees fans. So I'm proud of him.
The Big Maple. I am going to give my big piece of chicken to my main man, Craig Carton, who is probably going to be getting sentenced right now in federal court a couple hours from now. I met Craig over about a year ago. We started working together, did a show called Carton and Friends. Me, him, and Michelle Serpico. Always been a fan of Craig. I remember Nando called me into the studio. Nando kept telling Craig, you need to sit down and do some work with him. You got to get him on the microphone with you. And I remember after me and Craig did 20 minutes together, he cut the microphone off. Craig looked at me and he was like, wow, like, you really can do this. And I was like, yeah, I know. He was like, how come I've never heard of you? And I was like, I can't answer that question. You know what I'm saying? So he told me I'm going to do everything I possibly could to make sure that people hear of you and stuff like that. Obviously, you know, he ended up getting sentenced and things didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out. But I want to give my big piece of chicken to my main man, Craig Carton. Had a chance to roll with him for the past 10 months or so. Always a good dude. And today he's going up against, you know, a life-changing situation. You know what I mean? The prosecutors have asked for a 5-year sentence. So, you know, we'll see what happens later on today. You know what I mean? And if when Craig Carton gets out, I'm quite sure that Craig Carton be back in front of a microphone. So, Benny, he gets my big piece of chicken.
Yeah. Hey, I used to listen to him and Boomer all the time in the morning. That was my morning show back in the day. So.
No doubt. So shout out to all of those cats over there. All right, get ready for the weekend. Everybody enjoy. Me and Benny both are on the Michigan State Spartans to win. Next week, get back to the NBA and some Major League Baseball, and we'll continue to push it along the way. So make sure you subscribe so the video gets right to your inbox when it is posted. For my main man, Benny Ricciardi, I'm Corey Parson, the fantasy exec. We out.